one and all, Jasper here, and it's almost over. The second to last episode is here, and we have returned to there being big dumb changes that make no goddamn sense. Yet, even with that, there are still not a lot of changes made to justify a full video, so I'll also mention changes made in episode 7 since I couldn't justify making a full episode for it as well. Ready? Let's jump into it. We start the 7th episode hearing about how Corlys Velaryon was injured in battle against the Triarchy. It should be noted that at this point Corlys had abandoned trying to hold the Stepstones since Daemon no longer had any interest, and I doubt he would continue fighting against the Triarchy and Dorne by himself. Thus, in the books, there is no serious injury and he falls deathly ill instead. Vaemon Velaryon brings up his own claim on account of Rhaenyra's children being bastards, but never even gets the chance to see Viserys as Daemon cuts off his head and feeds the body to Rhaenyra's dragon. So, no body for the Silent Sisters to prepare. His children would make the same plea as well as for justice for the murder, but Viserys simply cuts off all their tongues, turning them into a family of mutes. Not really an inaccuracy, but it's crazy to see Criston dueling against Aemond with a fucking Morningstar. Do you know how dangerous that is? A blunt sword is reasonably safe for sparring, but an unwieldy mace that could easily maim or kill the prince if a mistake is made? Now that's ludicrous. Another accuracy that I can't exactly prove is an inaccuracy is when Rhaenyra seems to assume that Rhaenys plans on making her own claim to Driftmark. This is bad for two reasons. If she's correct in this assumption, then Rhaenys is an idiot, as she holds no proper claim to the land because she has plenty of offspring and grandchildren to take over. It was just last episode she told Corlys to name Baela Targaryen the heir, not herself. Her claim is practically non-existent. In the Green's eyes, she would be 4th in line, and in the Black's, she is 6th. It's possible this wasn't her intention, though, but that just makes Rhaenyra look like an idiot. Why would she assume that Rhaenys would be making her own claim when hers isn't real? Finally, the deathbed scene, where Alicent misunderstands Viserys when he's talking about the prophecy, and thinks he now changed his mind and Aegon should inherit. Very unlikely it happened, as in the books I can't recall the Greens even attempting to claim that Viserys changed his mind, instead simply pointing to the Great Council decision and that a son inheriting is a law made by gods, and even a king cannot change that. Also, in regards to writing, this seems very, very, very contrived, and coincidental, which I'm not a fan of. Luckily for me, I can just pretend this scene doesn't exist. Luckily, there are no time skips, so we can easily segue into the next episode. First thing up on the chopping block, though, is timing. In the books, many of the events we see take place here were orchestrated over several days, as the Greens wished to keep the king's death a secret for as long as possible, until they were forced to announce it. The show seems to paint a pretty obvious picture of all of this taking place in a single day. In the small council, we see Lord Beesbury being the only one to voice his dissent at the Greens taking power, resulting in Criston slamming his head into those weird marble holders that I still don't understand what they are. Think they might be old-timey fidget toys? In the books, while Beesbury does die, it is in 3 possible different manners. Grand Maester Orwyle says that he was arrested on the orders of Otto Hightower and taken to the dungeon, where he died of a chill due to being over 80 and in a dungeon. Septon Eustace claims that Criston forced Beesbury back into his chair and opened his throat with a dagger. And finally, Mushroom says that Criston threw him from a window, and he was impaled when he landed. I'm not a big fan of the death, as it comes across more like an accident. Speaking of, this leads to Criston and Lord Commander Harold Westerling drawing steel. Here we go, we get to see 2 great fighters come to blows. Obviously, Harold died long ago of old age, but this is a cool change. Criston becoming the Lord Commander by slaying the previous one, and oh, no, they're just not going to fight. And Harold just resigns from the position of Kingsguard, something that has never happened before and wouldn't happen until Barristan Selmy was dismissed, which was a big scandal. Why the fuck did the writers keep him alive if this was the case? It should also be mentioned that Larry Strong should be on the council at this point. He would be the Master of Whispers. In fact, he insists on everyone to take a blood oath by cutting the palms of their hands. Alicent is excused from it, being a woman and all. Well, on the topic of Larry's, that whole foot fetish thing, yeah, there's nothing that I can recall that says he had a foot fetish because his own feet were fucked up. With that said, I can't say it's inaccurate, just a very odd addition, and I heard that people expected this. I don't know if it was from leaks or apparently this was hinted at and I never noticed, but... Speaking of odd additions, let's talk about Aegon. Okay, there's no odd additions with Aegon, I just needed a better segue. I'm trying this whole thing out. But anyways, he is easily my least favorite character so far. I can't say the way he is portrayed is inaccurate, as thanks to Mushroom's tale, all of these terrible events are mentioned. Still, I was really hoping for a more sympathetic portrayal of the character. The character who said what kind of brother steals his sister's crown, and was only convinced to take it when told his brother, sister wife, and children would be put to death by Rhaenyra if he stood by. But nope, we get a rapist, cheating asshole who watches kids fight to the death. Yay. Anyways, Aegon is off running and hiding from responsibility, and he's found by Sir Eric and Sir Eric, twin brothers who are both Kingsguard members, and I am only now realizing that there are a lot of twins. Eric and Eric, Jason and Tywin Lannister, Baela and Rhaena Targaryen, and later on we might meet Aegon's kids who would be Jaehaerys and Jaehaera Targaryen. This is 4 different groups of twins. Holy shit! It's hard enough to make sure my editors are using the right image for a character who share the same name. I wonder if having so many twins will prove difficult. Anyways, it should be noted that Eric, with an E, would not be in King's Landing. He was actually named as Rhaenyra's sworn shield after Harwin Strong was removed. It seems like Eric is in the way, taking the place of Sir Steffon Darklyn, which is fair considering that Steffon is not a very prominent character. Either way, both of the twins are in King's Landing and they find Aegon, and are then stopped by Criston Cole and Prince Aemon Targaryen, and for no reason at all, a fight breaks out. Why? I understand Criston was sent by the Queen and Eric was sent by the Hand, but this is still not a good reason for Criston to draw his blade against a fellow member of the Kingsguard, nor is it a good reason for Eric to attack his fellow protector who was traveling with the prince. Gods, this episode. I hesitate to call it the worst one, but I have not yet come to the conclusion that it is. I take it back! This is shit! This bitch, in this massive crowd, somehow is able to sneak to her dragon. You're telling me that security isn't bumped up like crazy as they're letting in a shit ton of people into the dragon pit? Also, her great idea of getting away was to bust through the floor of a pit that was designed to hold dragons? Finally, she doesn't kill the Greens at this point. According to the writer, it's because this isn't her war, which is so many levels of dumb considering what is to come in the future, because she very quickly takes part in the war that isn't hers. But if she wasn't going to kill the Greens, then why the fuck did she burst through the ground, slaying so many civilians and staring down all the defenseless Greens? There are 2 easy ways to fix this. First, cut the scene entirely and end with Aegon pumping his sword. Ah! Not that sword! God, I hate my editors sometimes. But if you really need to have this scene, then crazy idea, but maybe have Aegon's dragon at the ceremony to make it a standoff. That way it makes more sense, as a battle could very well cost her her life. Makes more sense than her having issues with kinslaying, only to take part in a battle with the intention of killing her kin in the next season, likely. Sorry, I didn't mean to vent too much, but if you want to hear my other thoughts on the episode as a whole, scene by scene, in regards to writing and the story in general, then make sure to subscribe, as later on, I'll be posting the podcast where me and my friend DJ Fella talk about it in depth. Be safe, and I hope to see you all then.